Next is the handles that we use for Rivercane baskets. As you can see right here, there's all kinds of different handles that we use. Right here you can see an older style of Rivercane basket that we have. This has the incorporation of an interlocking handle. This is made out of white oak or hickory. As you can see, it's just a plain Rivercane basket, no color, no dye. This is an example of what we'd be using on the farms, everyday crops, put our baskets in. So when we made these types of baskets, they weren't for trade or anything like that. It was just still solely totally in use. The interlocking style basket handles that you see here is probably one of the oldest styles we have. As long as you see right here is the shopping handles, or what they call the squeeze handles. This is probably one of the oldest handle styles that you can see because it's just a simple piece of wood notched at the sides and then tucked into the basket. Some of the basket makers that made these handles in the baskets is like you see, this is an anti-rope twister. The pattern on it's the fishbone. Right there is a field of crosses of the chief daughter's heart. It's dyed with butternut and walnut and bloodroot. The bloodroot gives you an orange, walnut gives you a brown, and the butternut gives you a black. As you can see right there. Now on this one, like we see in the man in the coffin, this is actually just the coffins. There's no man in it. That's a little bit different in the patterns. Out there's the unbroken friendship. Now the handles, the interlocking handles, women primarily use these type of baskets, kind of like shoppers, something to hold their everyday items in that they would be using. The painting here is Raina Briley. She's one of the master basket makers that you've seen over in that case over there. And some of the ones I made the double use in this case. That was a painting. Some people use the inner cane right here, as you see, to make these baskets and mats. We didn't like to waste any materials, so we'd use the innards of that cane that would usually be burnt to make the simple mats that you see right here. And here's another example of the wall mats that we making. Like I said, we can use them to decorate the houses, as windows, as bedding, and different things like that. This is big, almost like a version of what you take out there in the garden and take it to go and get your crops and gather them back into your household. These are Waddick style baskets. And the rib baskets, the style basket making come from Maine. Incorporate making little wooden dowels, making a round handle, and then weaving strips of cut white oak in between the basket layers. You go through the same process as you would with the Rivercane. You bust in half, quarters, and eighths, but instead of just throwing away the innards and not using them, you can dye both the inside and the outside of that white oak and make multiple splints out of it. These different designs on the white oak baskets are called the chain link design. It gives you a more simple, more like a background type of pattern. This is another example of the white oak baskets, which you see right here. This is a bit more older. We was able to get a little bit more shapes out of the white oak than we would the Rivercane because it's more flexible. Rivercane basket patterns are being incorporated into white oak splints because the Rivercane was getting harder and harder to find. As you see right there. But Rivercane only accounts for 2% of the world now, as opposed as it was before European contact. On the wall right here you can see Emma Taylor. She was one of the master basket makers that we had. She worked with Rivercane on white oak as well. In this photo you can see that she's gathering her bloodroot. She's weaving her basket, her white oak basket. It's dyed with butternut. It looks like bloodroot in the natural color of the white oak. In the back right there, you can see white oak poles that she has that she busts up her white oak with and makes the individual splints that you see right there. Next is her dye pot. What's unique about that, she's using sourwood to burn underneath it because sourwood is a hard wood to burn. Or it's almost nearly impossible to burn unless it's completely dried out. As you can see, she's dyeing her splints in there. Next, you can see her breaking up her white oak or splitting it apart, shaving it down, making it nice and smooth to be able to weave with her baskets like you see in that one. And this one, she's gathering her dye off a walnut tree and getting the different types of barks together to dye her splints. This is what it looks like when she's dyeing. Loading her dye pot for the splints and throwing in dye. So for a quick example how this process works, it's pretty much this right here, to this right there, to right there, to right there, and to there. The next thing you want to notice in these white baskets is the size of them. You can do the same thing with the Rivercane if it's long enough, but primarily the white oak is the tallest trees that we could use and the straightest trees that we use. The big basket that you see right here is probably made with about 16-inch splints. I made different wall hangings with them, just very simple baskets.